Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Fola.
Good morning and welcome to another fantastic episode on the SPO podcast. Today is an exciting day because we're going to be talking about all things strategy, leadership. And as you obviously know, I'm always excited about how we can close the gap that currently exists between what we thought we definitely wanted to exactly what we got in the end, right? For those who are project managers, who are executive leaders, who are transformational experts, you definitely get it. A lot of the times we always have the great ideas, right? We want to change everything. We want to create, the massive transformation, build that, the massive construction sites. But what happens in the end? Everything never goes according to plan. But today we've got someone who's going to be demystifying all of this, the reasons behind this, and how we can get more successes when it comes to digital transformations as well, or overall business transformations. I think I'm excited about this. I want to know if you're excited about this. Just let me know in the comments where you're joining me from before we get into the meat of the essence of today. But just a little bit of a background. My guest today is an exceptional leader who has actually dedicated the most of his life to project management, ensuring that we get these projects right. And I love it when it's actually called Professor and Doctor. So he's got a lot of knowledge. So just get ready with your questions because we're going to be putting him on the hot seat. He needs to help us understand how we can definitely create and increase success when it comes to business transformation. He has been active for over 20 years and he's held different leadership roles across the oil and gas sectors as well. He's actually a professor. Oh God, when professors come in the room, you know that it's going to be hot. He holds a role now where he heads IPMA. And the beauty about this is that I have always, I've read about them. I really want to understand a little bit more about International Project Management Association, what they're about. I know it's a charity, but what they do and how they can help us amplify and help us increase our success overall. So please help me and Jeremy as I bring this to that. He's definitely smiling behind. I'm going to leave him to give me get into the meat of things. Professor Dr. Mladen, how are you doing today, Professor?
Thank you, Fola. It's a wonderful introduction I just received. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me in front of your great audience.
Thank you so much for making time to be here today. First of all, let us know where you're joining us from and what's the weather like today?
Currently, I'm in Zagreb. It's Croatia. It's middle of south of Europe, and it's really nice. It's 19 degrees Celsius, and spring is coming. We are looking out for summer. So good times, good times. We're changing for the clock to change to the summertime, so then the day stretches out. So it's even better.
Awesome. And do you want to know what's outside, my window? Goodness, yeah. I have a pile load of snow. It's like, I think minus 15 right now. And so, but we still have the sunshine. So that's good. Dialing in all the way from Canada, Calgary this morning, but it's a wonderful day. And I hope by the time you bring the heat today, Professor, all the snow on my driveways obviously would have actually melted. So are you up for the challenge then?
Yeah, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here this morning. But we always start the show with something like a nice icebreaker. We want to know what exactly is a fun fact about you, Professor? Because I know that when I think about you in class, you're giving us all the frameworks, all the strategic stuff. But what else is fun and, different about you that we can actually learn from? Something different, a fun fact.
Fun fact. Fun fact is that I've always wanted to be a wine producer. So sometimes I tend to believe that I'm a great wine producer, but actually I have just a couple of boutique garage barrels with my friends, and we tend to be greatest sommeliers and winemakers in the world, but actually really really are not that good. So that's a fun fact, because the reality of life is something completely different. You end up in projects, you end up in chaotic situations and
Yeah.
in great uncertainty. And then instead of playing your guitar and making wine and listening, I'm a great, passionate lover of music and music culture. So instead of having time for that, I'm just jumping off from one project to next.
Well, I think that's great. And when we think about wine, for instance, I'm doing my doctorate in Bordeaux, which is obviously the home of great wines in France.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's always great when you have a goal. You never can say, we can just find in the next couple of years that professor now has like a number one top producer in the wine thing. He's left project management. So maybe we can combine both. But
Well,
definitely
usually,
that's
yeah. Yeah, before you hit 50, I guess you should leave project management and go to consulting and yeah, counseling, advising people, and yeah, that's the plan, Fola. But maybe we meet sometime in future again, and I'm not sure that this will happen.
no, never say never. I tell people
Yeah.
just like any project, right? This is also a project, put it together a plan 5, 10 years, you never can say. We could just be up for something great and there's
Yeah.
project management in everything, right? So why don't we just leverage that? But why don't we get into it? Let me know where you guys are joining us from. For those who are actually already live on LinkedIn, thank you so much. It's definitely great to have you. I know before we get into increasing success when it comes to business transformation, I want to know more about IPMA. Give us a bit of a background. A lot of people have been asking questions, project management, we have APM, PMI. Bring us into the world of the IPMA.
Well, IPMA is the only organization you should look at, and
I
you
love
know,
that.
of course, we are the best, and we are the strongest. But aside from this humor, I think IPMA is maybe better known in Europe and in Asia. Not so much maybe North America, but the South America really leans much on IPMA insights. IPMA was established in Zurich, in Switzerland, 1965. So last year we celebrated our jubilee of 60 years. We are a body of global profession. We are a not-for-profit. We are not connected or attached to any national standards or government policies. Sometimes we say that we are some sort of a UN for in project management because all of our standards need to get voted by all the 72 members sitting in the council, and these members are national associations. APM that you mentioned was one of our members. Actually, at first it was IPMA was called Internet, like International Network. Of course, for the obvious reasons, we changed our name to IPMA later. But APM was called Internet UK, that is IPMA UK. Now, when they became chartered, they received the World Charter. Of course, they took part, and of course, they went blazing through the stars in their own way. And we are very proud of APM on their achievements and what they have contributed to the IPMA and to the body of knowledge. And then we are very supportive of their future developments. IPMA is very, maybe I would say, it's unique in the way we certify organizations, projects, and individuals. So we are not, as I said in the beginning, we are not so attached or connected with methodologies, processes, standards. We believe that the project management and the project culture is the right way to deliver change and to deliver value. And therefore, we accept all of the good practices and standards around the world, which can lead to a successful delivery. Therefore, IPMA certifies competence. Our definition of competence is the applicability of knowledge, skills, and abilities to deliver a successful value, output, result. And in doing so, you can, I would say, develop your own standards, your own initiatives. You can use other standards as long as you achieve success. Our qualifications, therefore, stand as certificates of excellence in this project management, that is the delivery industry, how we call it. In some of the countries around the world, our certificates now are even mandated by law in certain industries, such as, for example, in construction, where our certificates are needed for people to be mandated for a project which is financed through public funds or some international financing. So IPMA, of course, we run events, we run research remit with conferences, journals. We have top-notch journals in project management, such as International Journal of Project Management, which is ranked #1 in the impact factor. We have a dedicated program for youth. We call it IPMA Kids, which goes from elementary to the high school, teaching kids responsibility, accountability, leadership, value appreciations, but also tools and techniques to deliver in projects. And we also have a young crew program, which is targeting audience from 25 to 35 years of age, because we don't believe that you can be a graduated project management as soon as you finish your college or you get your university degree, but you need to build on that with certain tools, techniques, methods, and acquire some competencies before you can enter in a full swing, I guess, in project management.
So I guess it means obviously the different layers is definitely thorough. I think we're going to be diving deep into that particular piece. So I think when we think about project management, it's always great to be sure that you have tools and resources to ensure that you are successful. It doesn't matter the level that you're at, as you said, from elementary school through to you being a PM, and hopefully to executives as well, who need to understand the essence of project management. And this is actually a very perfect segue. When I think about that, I wanted to connect this to the evolution of project management, right? Traditionally, like, it's been associated with kind of like delivery and execution. From your perspective, what fundamental changes when project management starts shifting to become more strategic? That's kind of what I'm about. For me, I believe that we're definitely good at executing stuff, right? Get things done, build the widget, get the computer systems up and running, yes. Get the construct, put the pipe in the ground, yes. But beyond that, when we look at the current challenges that we face when it comes to project overruns, or maybe scope creep, or we think about business objective shifting and maybe the project management team not really catching up so fast, then we look at a lot of like budget issues and stuff. And I believe, and we have a lot of data to prove that there's so many changes that could have happened, maybe even before the project actually started, or maybe during the project execution as well. But what are your thoughts as project management actually now goes through like an evolution phase? Do you think that things needs to change? Or do you feel that the way we see it is kind of okay for us to embrace the future of work?
Well, when you look at, thank you for the question. It's a great question. I think when you look at how things have been developing and evolving for last 100 years, people maybe a century ago, Keynesian school thought that in 100 years we would maybe work for 4 hours per day and we would have a happy Friday, off. But it's not. It's Saturday, and we are spending our Saturday, of course, for the project profession, which is good, and we are working around the clock, 7 days per week. So I guess things need to change. Things need to evolve. We need to be better in delivering value. I don't think that nobody's serious in project management that has had some true experience, hands-on experience in project management, believes that it's only about delivery and it's not about strategic context. When you look at the theory of systems, of course, every system has a super system and when organization begin to view project management as a strategic discipline rather than simply an operational function, there is where the fundamental shift occurs. Somehow, in my experience, and I came from construction first, and then I went to other industries, is that engineers and usually designers, architects, thinks that all projects begin and ideas with them and end with them, right? And they don't understand the strategic context and that projects are only delivering an idea now being concretely delivered, which needs to serve a function for the client, for the, of course, public and the society.
Yeah.
We don't believe that every project, I personally believe, needs to be responsibly handled and delivered, because in the end, the result of the projects are, in any case, influencing the good of our society. So
Yes.
project management becomes closely integrated with executive decision making, and leaders begin to treat portfolios and programs and strategic tools for prioritizing the investments, allocating
Yeah.
resources, and then it becomes clear that you need to strengthen the connection between strategy formulation and strategy execution. When we look at different strategies, and of course there are multiple research work, publications done on how strategies are really designed well but executed poorly. But is the link between strategy and projects which is crucial for
Yes.
delivering that change. So of course, another important change is the emphasis on the value realization and impact. And I mean, scope, schedule, cost, the iron triangle or the triple constraint model is obsolete, right? So now you look at resilience, transformation, innovation, you look at value and sustainability. And basically, strategic partners are project leaders, are CEOs, are general managers, but also the society stakeholders. And in essence, when project management becomes strategic, projects shift from being isolated initiatives and to become a primary engine through which organizations can execute the strategy and deliver value.
I love the fact that you just raised something very important. You just spoke about the triple constraint being obsolete, like black and white. And now we have to start looking at different variables. You spoke about sustainability, which is obviously a key part. We need to think about, I think value always sits at the center of it, because at the end of the day, we need to be able to connect what the organization actually intended initially. Even if that actually shifts, we need to be able to connect the shift to what we're currently doing. If the product needs to be stopped, or if things needs to be adjusted, right? These things have to be done in conjunction, in collaboration with our stakeholders, the executive leaders. And that's where I find a bit of a disconnect at times, because I have worked across different regions, right? In Africa, in North America, as well as in Europe. And at times we find that the C-suite leaders are kind of like in the Oval Office, if we use that word, right? They're kind of there and they kind of say, yeah, this is kind of what we're meant to do. They hand it over to the project management team. Okay, you guys are delivering. And there is a major disconnect from maybe when things are shifting, what conversations they are having, to what happens on the ground. What do you think can actually be done to bring this group closer? There are different schools of thought, right? For instance, I'm doing my own doctorate research to actually explore what does co-creation of strategy look like when executives co-create strategy with project leaders. That's one piece. I don't know. But if we have a model where we believe that beyond just being a project sponsor, for instance, where you kind of come in, you get your status reports and then you walk away, is there any other model that you think could actually work to close that gap from your experience and from research as well?
Well, of course, project management is applied science. It's not something you can learn from books.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm editor-in-chief of one academic journal, and we are part of different editorial boards, and I'm often so much criticizing when I see, theory for theory papers. It's just art for art. And
Hmm.
people tend to forget that project management came, it's a delivery. It's a delivery industry,
Yes.
right? It came from the site. It came from the facilities. It came from uh, uh, from constraints, and people were constrained and had to deliver. And this is when these all methods and tools uh, develop. But from a global perspective, project leadership is evolving from a delivery focused role into one that contributes directly to strategic decision making and organizational transformation. So, to become trusted strategic partners, project leaders must develop a broader set of capabilities beyond traditional project management skills. And first, they need to think strategically and have business acumen. So, they need to understand how to contribute to the strategy, to the value creation, to long-term competitiveness. And but the second, from that's one side, from one hand. From the second hand, I mean, when you look from the C-suite and from the strategic level, uh, IPMA, for example, especially, we are now fighting for having chief project officers in the C-suite, and we have different communities of practice targeting people with A-level certificates or C-suite people that would be then representing the project portfolio of an organization. Uh, I will not now promote some global corporations that we work with, but when you look, for example, at ICT or energy sector, more than 50% of their turnover goes to projects. So projects are becoming increasingly important vehicle of organizational change, and therefore somebody who understands and came from projects and went to the strategic level needs to be there in the C-suite representing the project environment in an organization. Uh, Leadership and stakeholder engagement are becoming critical, and projects, modern projects involved in complex ecosystems, of it's not just internal stakeholders, it's the ecosystem of external stakeholders and partners and diverse teams. And I don't think that anybody can believe that success could be just measured from the client perspective. And in the end, what is success? What is success? I think
Yes.
that success in the end is something sustainable for the good of the society and the good of the market and good of the client. So that's really hard to tackle, and I don't think that projects can be just approached or perceived as something isolated black boxes where you put in some, resources and energy and money and you get up the outputs. That's an obsolete approach, I would say.
No, for sure. And I believe that we are definitely aligned because the world and things have actually shifted so far. And, you mentioned the role of the chief project officer, which is actually interesting because I believe I have seen that particular piece work, but I also see a world where the chief strategy officer kind of works very, very closely with the project managers. And in my own world, and where I actually work and support project management professionals, are they gain the competence of, as you said, the business acumen, understanding, what truly matters, connecting strategy to execution, where they could even move up to actually take on the role. So for instance, you look at project managers who obviously evolve to become maybe like PMO leaders, right? They go in, they look at the governance, they look at the structure, look at reporting, then they can actually push that forward. So where they can actually help shape the overall strategy of the organization. So that way, working closely with projects that seem so temporary shifts the focus from just delivery. And then we have people who really understand how to create the strategy, how to execute on that strategy as well, and then how to create value. And so
It
that's
is,
all. Yeah.
yeah, it's also, you said it right. I mean, there is the gap, between strategic intent and execution, and it remains a persistent challenge for many organizations. But and you have, different models of translating strategy into KPIs and disseminating. But in the end, it's in connecting the C-suite and strategic level with the project level. And so, but it's also what we in IPMA, our standards, are really focused about is people competencies and
Yes.
I would say social skills. So it's how the leaders translate the strategy and get people engaged because they believe in that strategy, they believe in that vision, and they find themselves part of that vision. This is what I found really at an important link, which usually is missing and usually stands as a wall between the strategy and what the people in the C-suite looked and in the board and what actually people in projects understand they need to do. So there's a disconnection between the ambitions and the vision and I would say their career path of people working in projects with the strategy and the vision of the organization. When you look at good practices of unicorns, especially from the United States in big tech companies, you will always find that the leaders were the ones who, the first 100 or 200 people, were not the ones who just came through tenders and open tenders and calls for interviews, but were basically passed on by good words of advice or reference, were supported by other colleagues, and they build a team, they build a family, and they build people who trust each other. So I think this link, it's more of a social people competence than it's a technical aspect for me, at least from where I stand.
I love the fact that you said that IPMA they focus on you call them the people translator competencies or whatever. Can you dive deep into what do you believe those competencies are? Because now we see a gap. So where do those competencies lie and what are they? So for people who are watching, wondering like, what next, right? What do I need to start focusing on? How can I maybe be the one who can maybe rise up to the C-suite? Who can ensure we can also increase project success? Because I see a correlation between this elevation in competence tying back to project increase in project success. Because at the end of the day, if we knew what we wanted at the start, I was reading a research as well talking about how can the people who are brought in to execute on a piece of work who never knew the intent of it, how can they really connect to that overall thought process when they're executing this? There is just like there's one door here, there's another door, and there's kind of like a hallway in between, and like what's happening there. So what competencies do you think will be beneficial to project professionals who are definitely watching today?
Well, I think that if people aspire to get to the C-suite, they need somehow to understand what currently is happening in the C-suite and what are the needs of the people sitting in the C-suite. If you come to a leader or to a director or general manager and if you were to suggest a certain investment in technology or some tools that will help your work become easier and better, they will not care so much. But if you explain how this relates to the strategy and how it helps their work become easier, then you can sell it better.
Easier.
So this is why, yeah. But the for example, one of the models you asked me for the IPMA competencies. We have two models that assess the maturity of organization. One are temporary organizations; these are projects, and the one are permanent organizations. These are, of course, companies and institutions and permanent organizations. And one of the aspects that we look at is how leaders communicate the mission and the vision and the strategy, especially to the project management office and to the project officers in the company, and how they involve them in decision making and how they give the feedback after work done and how they have rewarding policies. And this HR, I think it's much underrated in many organizations that I work with, where everything goes to PMO and everything goes to measuring financial results at the end of the project. But the governance and communication and the strategic decisions, which are often made at executive level, its rationale and objectives and expected value and some short midterm goals that you need to achieve are not always clearly communicated to the teams responsible for the execution. And without sharing understanding of how my goals as a project manager or my project charter, then relates to this strategy and how I can develop myself and the team through these projects to become better. If this is not communicated well, then I would say that projects can drift towards just operational delivery rather than have the strategic impact that companies actually wanted. When you look at these different strategic management or strategic performance management models, you will see that there are different dimensions and that the KPIs and strategic measures are put to different boxes. It's not just, it's not just financial one, but
Yeah.
it's rarely communicated because the C-suite and the board level, I think, somehow cannot close that gap and have a better communication with the project people and to get them more engaged and have charisma, putting the stars down to the earth and explaining how their future is part of the organizational future. So this win-win, I think, it would close that gap. It's really hard, Fola. It's really hard, and only the best companies can. It's only the best organizations are able to do it, and this is why not everybody is a good performer.
No, for sure. But I think I would say, I don't think it's hard. With everything is all about intentionality. If you obviously want to agree with me with that, because communication, I believe, is one that you just have to be intentional about it. As we say, we have a vision, we have a mission, we know where we want to get to. So for you as a leader, you want to be sure that, for sure, we understand what is going on. But I think to your point, at times, the people at the C-suite are probably engrossed and busy doing other bigger things, right? They feel, oh, I need to just think, we need to make our shareholders happy, right? And they are dealing with the political stuff. I remember I was on a major transformation project. I believe, kidding you not, our CEOs at the C-suite levels were always busy in getting to the White House, trying to negotiate our pipeline deals, because that's how political things have actually become. So like dealing with, okay, now we have to go communicate the other bits and bobs of product teams. It's like right down the list of the priorities. But at the end of the day, maybe a solution there just means while we're also shaping the strategic decisions, should the key project leaders also be part of it? So that way, it's no longer a case of you need to communicate. Since we're part of building this whole idea, they already understand what needs to happen. And so, for instance, a portfolio office manager or the vice president of projects or whatever, who has been part of those conversations, even if they're not right at the C-suite level, they already understand what's coming and they can easily cascade that information. But so from what I hear, then there are two competencies that are needed. The one where we need to elevate, where the executive leaders need to know that something needs to change. The product teams as well have to obviously get some competency upgrade where they need to say, now I need to understand pretty much what's also in the heads of these executives, so that maybe when I get a chance to have a seat at the table, I can effectively also contribute. So that kind of ties me to like the idea of influence, because project managers, as you pretty much know from the base level, they're always operating a lot of the time influence without authority. And for us to really increase success when we talk about business transformations, because organizations are going through one level of transformation or the other at different stages, how can we build influence? Or how have you been able to build influence? Because you've been successful at it. You've been able to rise to become the president of a great organization. So how have you been able to move up the ladder and like influence at different levels?
Well, we have, you ask about competencies. We have three areas of competencies in our competence baseline, individual competence baseline for project management. And the purpose is that you have one dedicated group of competencies, 5 elements. It's very easy to read. We call them perspective competencies. It's about the context, it's about the strategy, governance, structure, processes. It's about compliance. It's about even power and interests, and that power is sometimes formal, sometimes it's the gray eminences in behind in the shadows, and it's also about the cultures and the values. So this is what we call the contextual context of projects, and people need to, I would say, master these competences when they come to the, I would say, highest levels at organizations. Other than that, we have people competencies. These are 10 elements. This is self-reflection, that's integrity, self-control, reliability, communication. It is leadership, teamwork, conflicts, crisis, resourcefulness. So all of these, I would say, personal and interpersonal, before we call them behavioral competencies,
Yes.
are needed for leadership and collaboration. And in my experience, Fola, was that we call this I of competence. So purposely, I omitted that I did not speak about technical competences, what we call practice competences, because this is, goes without saying. It's about the time and the budget and the cost and the quality, procurement, whatever. But think about it when you go to projects and when people are all, diving into different schedules and earned value reporting. And now, for example, in infrastructure and building, it becomes even more complex with building information modeling and different models. It's very hard for leaders then to think of, self-reflection, about integrity, reliability, about result orientation, about conflicts and crises. It's very hard, and especially it's even harder to think then about the power and interests, about the culture and values. So this is why we say every successful project manager needs to have this eye of competence, which is really hard to at the same time run the schedule and think of the team and appreciate the values and develop people, but again, think of the power and interest and stakeholder. So it's always, and when you look at for example, the education system and how we are educating people and preparing them for the labor market, this is not done well. We only give technical competencies and we do not prepare people for these people skills and people competencies, especially for the contextual competencies. And people who are gifted and who are extroverted, I'm not just saying that extroversion is better, but in my experience,
No. But for people like me, I'm an introvert, right? But I still try and do well.
No. Yeah, but yeah, I know. The
I'm just joking. I know
there's
for
no
sure.
ideal type of personality, of course, but people who are extroverted, in my experience, have better communication skills and somehow can better understand what happens
The
with
context.
with the context, with other people, are people who have better empathy, can sense things, can better than, I would say, faster master these skills I just talked about. This is important. But sometimes even not everybody needs to excel in their career. I think what I also saw is that people sometimes want to be just be left in on the team level. They don't want to
Go
become
for
project leaders. Yeah, because when you become a project manager or a leader, then you understand that some of the WhatsApp groups that you had great conversations are now silent. Nobody wants to talk to you anymore because you become the boss. So sometimes people do not want to advance in their careers. But what I found is these people competencies are, I would say, the cornerstone in going from that project level into the program level and ever even to the C-suite.
Yeah. So the people skills is definitely one that's actually critical. Some people call it power skills. I believe that they're actually one that people call it even the soft skills, but I don't think it's soft at all.
And in PMI, PMI calls it power skills. We call it people. I know, but especially with the AI now coming, 5-6 years, you have the San Francisco Consensus Group. You know about them, so they say that maybe in 5 to 6 years, it will be the level of the artificial intelligence will be so high that we don't even have a language to speak about it. We will not understand, what happens actually. And I think what will be left, we will be left with ethics, with leadership, with people skills, and with the context. I mean,
That's right.
This is the future.
And I know that for sure, you've actually really hit home those people skills, especially when it comes to project professionals, building that communication, understanding the contextual piece, so you can do the power kind of metrics, understand the power dynamics in the organization, so you can actually influence them. But I think the one that we don't really talk so much about is, what about the executives, though? What skills they need to also upgrade, and what do they need to connect with? I know they've kind of reached a level where they feel, I think I'm actually okay. What else can we probably help them with, so they kind of understand the pains that actually exist on this level? Because our goal is to increase success when it comes to either business transformation, if it's a project piece, because all of these things are critical. It's kind of, I'd say it takes two. From one side, the PMs are working, like, yes, I want to develop, I want to do that. But we also need the executives to also come and meet halfway. What else in what area have you seen that has actually helped that, I know we spoke about communication, where they probably need to do that. Is there anything else? Do you think some of the executives need to pretty much understand how projects actually run? Or is there anything else you think that could maybe help so that we can overall increase success?
Well, this is what we are fighting for. We are fighting for this chief project officer in the C-suite who understands projects are executed and what is needed for the project. Usually, this front end phase of projects is the most important one, where you can understand the context and the strategic aspects, and you can tune and set up project charter and the goals, so it can hit what you actually had intended.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, another common disconnect occurs in governance and communications, and strategic decisions are often made at the executive level, but the rationale and the objectives and the expected value are not so clearly communicated to the teams responsible for the executions. And then when without this shared understanding, this is where we have this disconnection. How can you close that gap? I don't think that you can close it if people are incompetent and sitting on the board level.
Yes.
I think that it's how you develop people to get to the board level. It's what it's needed. So this is what it's needed. It's what we need. We need to enforce people in their careers with qualifications and standards. We should support, of course, the HR departments of organizations that could then build a bottom-up structure of people who would then end up on the board level. Not everybody needs to come from projects, of course, but
exactly.
But projects project portfolio is an important part now of every modern company, and therefore we need to have people sitting in the board level with certain competencies, experiences, proven experiences.
Yeah, I think I love your idea, your perspective, where maybe we could be looking at the next 10 years. So we start working with HR now. So by the time we start grooming the right people, because the people who are probably already there, there's nothing you can do. We can influence, share the nuggets, do conversations like this. Hopefully, leaders are also listening, but also ensuring that we start building the capabilities now for those project professionals, for those PMOs, for those engineers, because a lot of the times the people who end up maybe managing projects are SMEs who have been doing, the normal stuff, and they kind of get thrown into the project world, or they should get thrown into like one promotion. But making sure they understand this skill and making it available and working with HR is actually a very good point to see what competencies can we start making almost mandatory in all of these key roles. Because I remember having a conversation just a couple of days ago with a leader, you won't believe, a major technology company. And she was talking about the fact that a lot of the process that exists is almost non-existent. They're running major transformations and major projects, but the PMs who are probably running it a lot of the times they're subject matter experts, maybe with a particular technology space, and then they brought in to lead these transformations. And they haven't really got the skills when it comes to execution or even managing the projects. And so they report a certain way, they do things a certain way, they kind of feel this is not really as important. And it's just a struggle. And when you step back, you're like, how is this even possible? But the reality is, people who are going to be, handling those roles are probably thrown in there. But so how can we ensure that they are pretty much set up for success? And I love the fact that, you want to say something?
No, please continue.
No. And so I said, the fact that you just mentioned something really critical to say, before people even put in this particular role, it doesn't matter the domain expertise, even if it's HR, finance, engineering, right? As the world shifts to more of a project world, we need to ensure that they now understand at least the fundamentals. Like, this is kind of how the process flows. This is kind of how you report. This is how you communicate. This is how you structure the ideas, so that we can start growing them ready for the C-suite. Over to you,
sir.
I
think, Fola, you're completely right. But what we are, when you look at all the global bodies of project professions, we are all fighting to have competent people in project management, and that appointed individuals, the people that we really appoint to lead complex environments that we call projects, are really competent. And I think this is where we need to aim. This is the focus. Our certification and certificates and qualifications that we all promote and we all develop and perfect from time to time are important beacons of ethics and integrity, and certified project managers are the people who are willing to put their interests for the interests of others, and who have special skills and competences to deliver that change. And what we need to be fighting for is to have more competent people who would be appointed at key, decision-making positions. So this is what is important. Of course, when you have a board room full of people who are not competent, have no idea of what projects are, but they are really fixated on strategic goals, but they don't know how to execute it, then filling that gap is really hard. It's really...
This is so perfect segue for us to discuss strategic lifestyle. How can we groom these leaders? Because at the end of the day, the leaders who show up in organizations have to build themselves individually. So I believe that we are not just going to wait and say, let's let the organization train us, right? We're going to wait for those HR to do it. How can we on our own start equipping ourselves and get ready for, becoming better leaders overall? So in this particular segment, we kind of dive into, for instance, we want to increase success. What tips and strategies can we walk away with on our own to actually help us become better leaders overall? Over to you, Professor.
Well, yeah, that's another easy question that there are no, perfect answers, but project management is evolving. It's a developing profession. It's not a profession that somebody can master at any university level, and there needs to be a continuing professional development for everybody. It's a life. I would say it's a mission that your life is a project, your career is a project, and if you want to excel in project management, I don't think you can get certified or have a diploma and then you're done. So so the technology is advancing, and usually technology is pretty much has a higher gradient of development than the organizational sciences. So first you have technology development, and then what limps behind is the organizational aspect. So we are always somehow, with project management and with our competences and our organizational settings and methodologies and processes and tools, are always lagging behind technological development. And therefore, everybody needs to understand that with high development of technology and high technological development, it will become even more critical for people to constantly get up to date with new models of organization, of planning, of leadership, of control. And therefore, I think organizations need to perceive continuing professional development in project management as a vital part of their organizational strategies. It's an investment. When we work with global customers and organizations that work on global scale, we even have some really large corporations which do, I don't know, 8 billion project or 90 billion project in United Kingdom, and they use, for example, IPMA certification system for being one of the criterias on when they decide who gets to be promoted on the higher level of complexity and responsibility. It's what I talked before. It's not just about the technical aspects. It's also about people skills. It's also about the contextual skills. But this HR development and HR plans, I think, is quite important for the future of project profession, especially with the AI coming and with AI replacing a lot of technical skills. This is very important. Yeah,
that's so critical. I know that's a topic for another day, but before we get there, let's quickly. Oh my goodness. You ready for the hot seat? Oh yes, we had some great comments coming. We're just gonna address that now that we have this particular piece up, and you've actually raised so many stuff. I've been taking notes as well, and we're gonna have to review all of that. It's definitely been a great one. I can't imagine it's almost the top of the hour, but we needed to get there. But before we do, we always have a mystery question that comes from our previous guest. So let me just take that before before it goes. But it's actually pretty easy. It's pretty easy. Okay, it says, what's one thing that you could have actually done in your career differently if you didn't have any fear at all? What's one thing you can? If you were not afraid of anything, what's one thing you'd have done differently in your career?
Yeah, I could have become a rock star instead of teaching project management and working in different environments and always changing teams and geographical locations. Yeah, I don't know, Paul. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, to be afraid is good. It's a sense of responsibility. It's justification for, I would say, second judgment. It's something that comes with experience, and it's of course, the Dunning-Kruger syndrome of people not being afraid or have really high self-confidence without no competence. But I think when you develop competence is that first you understand that you're not in the middle of the universe, and that the sun, does not revolve around you, and if you if you die, that the Earth will, keep spinning, and everything will, what I wanted, maybe if I could have understood that earlier, that I'm not the critical link in this global context and really complex global systems that we live in. And this is something that I'm trying to teach even my students and colleagues in projects and organization that I lead, is that I tend to give more emphasis to knowledge management, and that a certain knowledge which is held in the heads of these great project managers and experts are then somehow shared with the organization, and that people understand that it's not about them, it's about the team and the organization.
Yeah, for sure, and I love that. And for me, I want to add to that particularly. But when I think about fear, you're so right, where fear is actually also good because it helps hold you kind of accountable, right? You just don't do anything. But
Yeah.
I believe that fear also holds us back so much. I don't know for me, I do like a self-assessment. I go back and I reflect on my career and I say, imagine maybe if I did this 10 years in, where would I have been? I had a coffee meeting with one of my past colleagues. We used to work for a major oil and gas company before I launched my organization, right? He's a vice president now for a major multinational. But at the time, I was like, imagine when we were just managers, the things that we did, things we were so scared of. And then we said, what about if, Ola, maybe you showed up to that executive meeting a little bit different? What about your approach was different? He's like, maybe I would have been the CEO. And then we laughed so hard. But the fact is, I would have launched a lot of stuff that I do now, maybe a little bit earlier. But at times you just feel that, am I ready? I look at myself, I'm like, I had my first PM role about 21 years ago. I can't even believe that, But even then, at times I still question some things. I'm like, oh, what does that research say? What does that other thing say? We always I think there's a syndrome of people who are experts. There's the fear of showing up and not showing up, completely,
Yeah. The fear itself is not necessarily bad for project managers. It depends on how it's understood and managed. And for me, as I said, it's a certain level of fear can act as a signal of responsibility.
Yeah.
So, its importance and impact of our decisions, of course, needs to come also from fear, and fear can support risk awareness. If it becomes harmful, if it leads to paralysis or avoidance or a compulsive excessive control. But the key in transforming fear into professional awareness and disciplined actions and competence, I think it's the beauty of project management is when
I know
it's about the journey, of course, and it wouldn't be a journey, would it, if we didn't have fear and uncertainty. So I think this is what brings the adrenaline, and this is why we love the act. Right?
That's right. I think we're like adrenaline junkies, right? Just like, that thing going there. But I love the fact that you said we need to ensure it doesn't create paralysis, where the fear doesn't now hold us back. Because for me, I believe that I call myself a recovering perfectionist. You know what I mean? Every time I'm like, this has to be perfect. You go back and you look at it again. Okay, no, it's not ready yet. But now I just tell myself, I created what I call the 70-30 rule. Seriously, I do a little bit of a check. I said, if this idea is 70% ready for the world, we're going to iterate the remaining 30%. We're going to evolve until it's great. The same way I launched my podcast, I started speaking globally. I started doing a lot of these things. I'm like, it's never going to be perfect, Fola, right? It's never good. But when I start getting like so much positive feedback, that kind of pushed and gave me fuel to keep going. But if I never launched there, because I kept saying, oh my goodness, what's professor gonna say, or what's my ex, VP gonna say when I see Fola? But now I'm like, okay, if it's 70%, I'm gonna validate that with SMEs. I'm gonna check it. It's never gonna be 100%. Because look at the Samsungs, the Apples of this world. When I run into history and I looked at how organizations actually evolved over time, right? Samsung was a grocery store. Before now, look at Shell, the oil and gas company. They used to sell seashells.
Yeah, but it's of course. But in short, I would say fear is not a problem. It's the unmanaged fear is a problem. But if you balance this with experience, with confidence, and you have the support of the organization, then the fear can make you more attentive, resilient in the end, and become a better leader.
That's right. We've got one. It's kind of like a comment, just corroborating what you said around communication. I guess that's right. The search for ambition, so element exposure. Just reading this quickly. Yeah, I think communication is like an underlining key thing. Thank you so much, Marco, for joining. And it's one skill that it's so underrated. You know what I mean? It's like so underrated. And people kind of feel that communication, who doesn't communicate? I'm like, really? Oh my goodness. It's an art and a science, right? You can speak, but no one even really cares. But you can come out and people are like, what's this about? And it's why I think that's the number one takeaway that a lot of people should actually listen to. Go back and assess your communication skill. It's a number one people skill that would help you drive transformation, that will help you create a path even to a leadership, understand the context, understand the things that are actually not even being said, so that you can actually read in between, in between the lines as well. Professor, oh my God, it's been so great. What would you say? We want to put the bow on top of it. To summarize all we've actually said, what would you say
about the future, right?
Yeah, because we need to paint this canvas. You need to put a seal on it. The future of project management and business transformation and success. What does that look like, and how can we be the ones to ensure we increase project success?
Well, I think, of course, besides understanding that fear is not bad, I think that leaders will need to, unlearn that idea that project management is primarily about control, predictability, rigid planning of traditional project management approaches is often assumed that there are certain relatively stable environments where detailed plans could be guided, execution from the start to finish. But now it's transformative age characterized by rapid technological development changes, evolving markets, complex stakeholder environments, and this level of predictability is unrealistic. So we need to embrace that project management fundamentally is about navigating uncertainty while, of course, continuously delivering value. So that's another belief is that projects are temporary operational activities and they are disconnected from strategy. And in reality, projects are becoming a primary mechanism and vehicle for delivering that change. And therefore, project leadership must shift from a mindset that there is a strict control to one strategic guidance, one adaptability and learning. And the success will increasingly depend on the ability to combine agility, structure with flexibility, and planning with continuous feedback, dynamic feedback. And ultimately, the leaders who succeed in this transformation age will be the ones who recognize that project management is not about delivering predefined outputs, but it's more that it's about guiding the organization through continuous change and creating a sustainable value. This is, I think, what is the future about.
Guiding the organization to create sustainable value. I think that's a key point, because being able to be successful, it's not just about just one hit. You want to be able to sustain that over time, where you stay relevant. You don't become like the Kodaks of this world, right? We think about Kodak a lot. And it's interesting because I was doing some work and I realized that a lot of the stuff that they needed was even there internally, where people said, let's do it this way, right? Let's evolve. So how flexible are you, right? Are you one who is kind of open to learn, and then as Professor said, also unlearn those things that are obviously not working? AI is coming, like it's so fast, so we need to develop the people side. We need to ensure that we evolve, and it's one that you need today, and it's even more critical for you to be relevant as we get into the future of work. We want to say so much thank you for taking time to be with us today. This was almost not meant to happen, but somehow we pulled it off. So I want to say thank you. We appreciate you for being here. And definitely, I think we need to have more of you so we can dive even deeper, because I know there's so much more to definitely unpack. For those who actually joined us today, we want to also say thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure. But how can people connect with you, Professor Martin?
Well, usually they connect through LinkedIn. So, and I don't have an open door policy, of course, but for everybody knocking in, but people, you can always reach me at Mladen at IPMA World, my email. I'm on social media. We have a great office and people in the office sitting, always connecting me with different beautiful individuals in love with project management. So I'm really into communication, connection, networking, and of course, after this interview, for all that have been watching, forget all the other bodies of project profession. Come to IPMA, where you will get the best experience.
That's right. My goal is to ensure I bring all the voices together. It takes a village. No one person, no one institution can actually have all the answers. I believe in that. I know that together we can create greater success. Together we can definitely put a positive dent in the universe. I want to say thank you so much. Same time next week. We're going to be live. Do not change that dial. Fola Alabi, as you obviously know, I'm always all about ensuring that we create exceptional value. I've brought a great mind for you today. Go back and watch. Let me know if you're watching on the replay. Put your questions. Professor's going to be answered. I'm going to be writing in the comments as well. We're going to be diving in because indeed, projects are the engines of progress. But if you want to create bigger outcomes, you need to think bigger and also more strategic. I want to say thank you so much for everyone who actually joined. But take those actions. Make sure you do the things that you actually meant to do, and you're going to start getting the results that you want. See you same time next week. Have yourself a wonderful Saturday. Bye-bye.